Hey everyone, welcome back once again to On the Couch with Travis and David.
Talking about in episode 17, was it? Yeah, 17, the Northern Air Temple. And, I mean, we talked about this one a lot already before we were recording, but this is a very interesting episode. And I think the main flaw is that it throws a lot of ideas out there, all very interesting. We start out with sort of like a cultural appropriation thing, and then almost like a gentrification, industrialization thing, you know, creating arms for armies in war, and there's even a wheelchair kid to boot. And with all that, it almost seems like they're all interesting and they touch on it briefly, but I think they don't give any issue the attention that they could or it deserves.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think, like I had said when we were talking, my biggest issue is that the first act, like the first half really, I think is a really good build-up. Because it's kind of... Aang has already kind of had to deal with the past and letting go of it in the Southern Air Temple episode. But I feel like, at least if it was like an actual person, it would be much harder than like just one episode to really finally realize that like I'm the only one. And I feel like him seeing these people who aren't airbenders inhabiting the Airbender Temple and using it to supply their own community, it could be like is a very emotionally charged, moment for Aang, and he has a response that makes a lot of sense. But I feel like it was superficially done just because by the time the second half comes, we know that that the main guy is like doing an arms deal with the Fire Nation.
In the beginning, they sort of touch on it briefly, where it's, these people are here, they're inhabiting my space, they're ruining my culture, my people, but it's interesting because you're getting also the observation of, well, your people have been gone for 100 years. Progress needs to happen. People should live here. No one should. And that's interesting real-life sort of conversation.
And they're escaping the Fire Temple, and that's, I mean, the Fire Nation, sorry.
They're refugees, Temple. They do point that
They're
out.
Basically like refugees, and that has parallels with today as well, where it's like, well, can they move into places that they didn't live before? That's something that is very interesting, and especially in the globalized world, ever since, I would say, like the 1990s, the increasingly globalized world, it could be a very interesting take on that. But they let that go in favor of slime bombs.
Well, the problem is with this issue, we get a beginning and an end. We get, oh, here's the problem, and then at the end we get, you know what, I'm happy you're here, I'm happy someone is keeping this alive. Which is a great way, it's almost a beautiful way to end it, I love it. But you don't get that middle arc. We get from point A to C with no sort of satisfying conflict or resolution getting there. Instead, we get, oh no, they're tearing it apart, what am I going to do now? Oh no, it's an arms, he's making arms for the enemy, which is an equally interesting topic, because what is the morality placed on people who make weapons for opposing armies? In one sense, there's people who do it for monetary gain, and that's their livelihood, that's how they live, and think of that what you will, but in another sense, like pointed out in this episode, they're being forced to, they have no choice. And Aang sort of arrives at the conclusion that we don't negotiate with terrorists. It's that very common sort of ideal where, regardless of what you're being forced to do or what the consequence is, you do the right thing. But it's not saying that Aang is necessarily in the right there. That's just his way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't get that deep with that. They should have picked one or the other and just they could have done this 2 episodes. Instead we have stuff like the fortune teller. And I know the slots don't equalize like that. It's a rush schedule. Some episodes need more attention than others. But for this to be a powerful, long-lasting episode, it needed to go deeper in one of the two. And instead you get sort of, it touches on it, but it doesn't have follow-through. Let's talk about the second half, because that's where this really...
Well, I was going to before we get to there, I was going to say, I think a way to improve this, taking out the second half, and adding just a little bit more with Aang and the people, like, about him, like you said, maybe when he opens up the chamber where the people haven't been in yet, like, that can remain as, as like the legacy of the Air Temple, like...
And we can find solace in that. That could have been a good
and that can be one where it's like, only the Avatar can get in here, like, this can be his place. And then they can add in Zuko, who hasn't been around for a while for a while.
2 or 3 episodes, yeah.
Having something about him, and you had an interesting idea, like maybe realizing that some of the Fire Nation's like cultural traditions or beliefs when it comes to war don't fit as well with him as he thought, and that's kind of like the death of his own culture, but in a much different but resonant way.
Yeah, with Aang and Zuko, you get this wonderful opportunity to have 2 plots working on the same issue from 2 different perspectives. And it would have been a great dichotomy to have Aang say, this is what I need to do to preserve this culture, and Zuko saying, I need to leave this behind, this isn't right. Which are 2 equally valid ways to look at this. But we don't get that. We get this second half of the episode, which is all an action scene with slime. We got to talk about slime.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just have to do this. What's really interesting, so the Southern Air Temple, Aang and Zuko,
Yes.
2 stories. Zuko's with Zhao, right? It's a fight with him. I think, in this one, they could have the Zuko storyline be something with Zhao, where he has to mitigate Zhao's beliefs about, maybe he joins Zhao on a mission or something, and they are supposed to destroy a village, and then he has to mitigate his beliefs or whatever.
And it's this. He says this is something I'm not okay with.
Yeah, and it could have been a parallel to that original episode, which I think would have been very resonant.
Yes, that would
Anyways,
be great.
slime bomb.
The second half of this episode is where it really falls apart.
Yes.
We get a big action sequence with the Fire Temple invasion. There's just a lot of things that bring you out of it. The main for me, and this sounds extremely trivial, but their main weapon of offense was slime and slime bombs, dropping slime on tanks. And I mean, we talked about this. David says, "Oh, those tanks the grapple would never work," and I say, people shoot fire out of their hands in this show, so who cares?
I'm like, that winch wouldn't be that strong.
But when they're using slime, and again, like you said, it's when they're tackling these real world, serious sort of heavy issues. I know you don't really like the word, but heavy issues. We can't have a second act where they're just dropping slime on tanks.
It'd be like having the storm, and then having the second half be like a big battle,
or something, yeah.
or a big battle with slime.
It just it completely it's completely dissonant in tone, and the action sequence isn't very exciting. We don't have a lot of. What I was talking about was the most important thing with Avatar and with any show or entertainment in general is character, and we don't. This episode needed was more character, more. What are people's ideas and reactions to what's going on versus what's going on?
Yeah,
because it is ultimately just a very superfluous action scene. And the ending, this whole episode, we're built up that, this gas leak is a problem. If this explodes, it could destroy the temple. What do? They explode it, and it's a huge explosion, and it doesn't do anything to the temple. So what was the point in building that up? What's the... Oh, you got something?
I just have a way we could have ended this episode to make it a little more thematically appropriate.
Yes.
Is if you have Aang, and he has, somehow, I'm not sure how, but he has the ability to use that gas leak to blow up the temple. And he can decide, do I want to blow up my entire past because these people have somehow attached themselves onto it, or do I want to preserve my past and my memory with these people as they take over this
We
place?
could have had some ideas like it's more important to him to destroy it on his own terms than have it destroyed by the Fire Nation.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And he could have had that inner torment of do I want to destroy it or do I want to preserve it? And how, what's the decision going to be? I don't know. That just came into
mind. We didn't get that. We got the fight. And
I just see so many missed opportunities that it's more
a disappointing episode than it is a bad one.
Yeah.
You see episodes like The Storm, like we talk about, and you see this is how far the show is willing to go with its ideas and drama, that when you're presented with something like this, it just says, hey, why can't we do... And again, as we can't have the best episode every time, obviously.
No.
But this was a perfect opportunity to go that extra level, and it just didn't take it. It's exciting coming up now because we're coming towards the end of Season 1.
Definitely.
We have sort of an arc here, and I'm hoping that we get back to these highs. We need more Zuko. We need more... I guess the show, for me, a big function of it is the characters and the metaphors, and we need that. And these past 2 have just been weaker.
Yeah.
Not bad, not fortune teller, not... I think Warriors of Kyoshi, but just sort of...
But
you missed it. I wish you would have.
They could have been... if made correctly... I don't want to say correctly. If made a little differently, it could have been a 10, a knockout. Like, this
And,
could have been a knockout.
Me and
episode.
David aren't TV writers, but a whole part of this critique is saying, here's a quick idea of what could have made this better. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. It's just we're throwing ideas around and seeing what we think might have worked. And again, what we think might not have worked for everyone, but
just like a suggestion for making it better.
well, we're moving on. This might have seemed a little disjointed because we had to refilm this one, so we're kind of regurgitating our own ideas. What did we say? What did we didn't?
Mm-hmm.
But we're moving on to next, which is the Waterbending Tribe, episode 18.
It's exciting.